This is so packed. All right, welcome back. We are Game 2015 in the winter 2018 semester at George Brown, and it's week 3. That's virtual reality development. We're talking about the project details today. This is the part 1 of this one. I put this up on Blackboard for you guys, but I want to quickly run through it. So basically, what you're going to be tasked to do is you and a team of up to 6. Hopefully, you have closer to 6 than 3. I'm just putting it out there. Because lots of stuff to do. You're going to create this VR game using Unity. That's really what it is. You're going to make a game design document, and you're going to pick a development role, or you're going to assign a development role to the different users. So just like we've talked about in game production, there's several different kind of development roles: software engineer, producer, project manager, artist, sound engineer, game designer, QA tester, whatever you decide, it's here. If you so you can read this part, and you should know about it from our game production. So here's kind of a light schedule of what I'm doing. I've broken down the project into several parts that I'm going to be reviewing you on. Again, Ilir and I are going to come up with weightings, where the value next to it is blank right now. I will update this document and update the value so you'll know exactly what's happening. So your team contract is worth something. Next week, I want you to put together your game pitch with your team. So again, I have details about what that is. Then after that, sorry, someone said no. Your game pitch, game pitch is due next week. And then after that, there's a mid-semester break. So mid-semester break actually is week 5, calendar week 5 for us. And then we're into week 6 where your first playable is going to be due. All right, so it's going to be pretty quick. Then it's your alpha, a couple weeks after that. Your midterm test is going to be done at the same week as your alpha is due. Remember, there's no presentations until the end. All right, so all I'm looking for is development. I'm going to actually go around in class, take a look at what you're doing, all that kind of stuff to see how you're progressing and if you've met the requirements. And then your betas do week 10. And right now, it's week 12 for your final release and final presentation. I might break this out into 2 separate pieces, where week 12 is your final release, and then in week 13 we do our final presentations. That's what I might do, and what that might do is alleviate some of the pressure to do everything at one day, right? Give you a little bit more of an extension. We'll see how that goes. So also what I've done is I've put up a peer review form online as well, which I will be expecting next week. So next week, even though I have you do your game pitch, it's the first peer review form. It's like a lab that I'm going to put up, right? And the lab is going to be saying something like this. Let's say Corey, as an example, and I are on a team, and then, we're going to rate each other. We're going to say that, Corey did, 50% of the work, and so did Tom, right? But what if Tom did 0% of the work and Corey says, look, I did all the work, and Tom did 0, and both of us say different things? It's an early warning indicator for me, like I talked about before, where I can go and approach the team and say, okay, guys, what the hell is going on, right? That's really what it's for. It's going to be worth something to do your peer review. It's not going to be like a 0 mark thing, and it's going to be individual. So it won't be a team thing. It's not like everyone's going to sit down on the team and say, so guys, how did we do, right? It won't be like that. It'll be like everyone reviews everyone else. You'll do this several times for every release. So for your first playable, for your alpha, for your beta, for your final release, and so anything else we decide to do, there'll be at least 4 or 5 different team evaluations you'll be doing, right? And the reason for this is because I really want to get a sense of, hey, is everyone working out on this team, or is someone loafing, right? Because there should be no loafing. That's what this thing is for. So if you look at the game, so what are you building? These are some of the requirements I want you to include in your game, okay? So some specifics. Some kind of VR-enabled character. First person is what I recommend. A player model is optional. So if you wanted to include a player model and you had a real good artist on your team, someone who's comfortable with Blender, or who's done rigging before and all that kind of stuff, you should push yourself and try and get it done. Like, try and make it so that when you walk, the character walks, right? A little bit. Which is kind of weird, in that you don't really see your arms in VR, and we have to talk about that kind of stuff, right? But at least your body and stuff like that, like your legs when you're walking and all that kind of stuff, so you see that there's part of you feel like you're more, there's a sense of immersion that you might get by doing that. Again, it's optional, and I will give you bonus marks for it if you can make it work, okay? Physics, of course, is included because you're making a first-person kind of experience, right? Movement, some sort of controller. I recommend some kind of Xbox controller or something like that that you hold in your hand for now, because we don't know what VR gear we're going to get. Enemies, traps, obstacles are unique to each level, so that way, it won't be something like that you'll have to. That'll be the same if you make more than one level, and my feeling is you should make more than one level, right? My recommendation is something like 3 different levels. Okay, and we'll talk about this. It shouldn't be that difficult to do, guys. Like I'm not talking about big stuff. Just like we did before. I recommend also there should be some kind of tutorialization in one of the levels. I recommend the first one, where you have some kind of 3D text that points down at an object that says pick up, at the very minimum, or an object that like a 3D pointer that's animated that says basically avoid, right? Run away, something, maybe a user interface that says run away, or here's my goal, some kind of quest goal or something, something to help the player know what to do. All right, so that's enemies, traps, something you want to put in there. It's up to you how you make your level. Basic enemy movement patterns, and I mean like basic, like the enemy patrols from node A to node B and back, right? Like that's what I'm looking for right now. Okay, if you can do more AI, bonus. Right, anything you do extra, we'll talk about it, and then you'll get bonus marks for that. Again, this is not something that's supposed to kill you. This project is not a killer project. I don't want it to be that way. If this turns out to be a killer project for you, you're doing too much. Remember, you have other courses, other things that are going on. And this is supposed to be somewhat fun to build. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Some kind of distinct setting progression. And what I mean by that is each level is unique and has a unique goal. Don't make the same exact level every single time, right? And otherwise, with a different color sky or something, that would be bad. Power-ups, pickups, bonus items. There should be something like that. Pickups are cool. Power-ups are difficult, because think about how you're going to do power-ups. What are you going to do? Get a shield in front of you against enemies? I mean, there's things you can do. Run faster, but then that means, like, again, you're going to see stuff faster. Careful. You're in VR. You're not a first-person game, right? Huh? More health or jump. More health, jump. Something that makes sense. Yeah. That don't go too crazy, because you can really hurt your eyes, and we don't want anyone. We want anyone vomiting from that, right? So a couple of options I put in here just to mention it: destructible terrain or obstacles, optional, right? So if you want to fire at a building, or you want to throw a grenade at something, and then the building explodes and sinks into the ground or something, okay, optional, right? Boss, enemy, or ultimate challenge, like you have to do some weird challenge to get through the final level, optional. Don't go crazy. Bosses are hard to make realistic, especially in VR, and they can be quite challenging. Typically, you want to give them health and some other more intelligent AI, and like I said, this can be bad. So enemies should be either fairly simple, like when you hit them, they're like and they fall down and die. Like one of those. It shouldn't be something that it's so bad that you don't make the game unbeatable. Okay, it's not like that kind of game. All right, it should be friendly enough for anyone to pick up and play. And they should be able to play in Unity. I don't expect you to make a build that works standalone, okay, in this particular time. If you make a standalone build because of performance issues, and you need to do it from that reason, that's fine. But don't make a build for me. Don't try and make a WebGL build or some other build just for me. I don't need that. It's for you. I'll test your game. You're going to demonstrate your game here, hopefully with a headset at that time that connects to some kind of machine we'll have. I don't know. And then, or worst case in Unity. And then, demonstrate the game, see how it works, and that you built this game out, and it's VR compatible. All right, so that's really it in a nutshell. Notice I recommend 2 software engineer primes for pair programming, especially when some of this difficult stuff. 1 PM, of course. 1 game designer. Don't make the game designer and the software engineer the same. Okay, don't. If you're a software engineer, you can't be a game designer. That would be very bad, right? However, a game designer, if you have less people than 6 on your team and you want to make a game designer an artist, okay. Right, that makes sense. Or a game designer in QA or an artist in QA, those combinations are fine. The roles are a little bit lighter, and but I think combining game designer and PM or game designer and software engineer, I recommend that, right? Project manager or producer, however you want to see it, right? Now, we've talked about what they do. I've kind of listed what they do up above, and I recommend that you use them as primes. So what that means is that everyone should know about the game. If I question you about the development of the game, you should understand all aspects of it. So if I ask you something like, so how did you make this model? Well, we used Blender, and this is what we did. We have our artist here. You should understand the basics of what happened. Okay, I don't expect you to, know everything about modeling, but you should know basics about Blender. And on your test, I will ask you questions about Blender and Unity. Right? Yes.
Just not sure. This isn't a coding course, right?
Well, you're going to do some scripting.
Yeah.
100%.
Everyone doesn't have to contribute to code.
No, but they should understand what's happening. Yeah. Right? When I question you, you should know exactly what's going on. You should have looked at it with your team. You should look at it and understand it. Like if you don't understand the code, then get your buddy to explain it to you. Right? I mean, whoever the primes are. I made 2 software engineers because one person can do, the gameplay. They can work on gameplay in another scene. Remember, you can have multiple scenes being developed at the same time. You do not have to develop one scene at a time. One scene can be used terrain as opposed to our tiles or what map stuff you want to use. I'll be showing you how to make terrain. If you haven't, do you guys learn how to do terrain? Yeah. In Unity, right? Yeah. I'll do it in Blender, right? So you can actually make your own terrain in Blender or Unity, whatever you want to do. You can do terrain. And did you do things like wind effects? Colin, did you wind effects and trees and all that stuff? The
just like important standard trees.
Yeah, no, we'll do all that stuff because it's VR. What was that? Skybox. We'll talk about all those things because you need to understand how to do all that because it's part of the whole immersion, the experience that we want. Okay. I gotta stop talking. So if I keep talking about this, we won't get to the Blender piece, which is really intense this week. So here are the details. The team contract you guys did already, or you should have done. And then the game pitch is right here. Please notice that there is a presentation attached to the game pitch. I don't expect you to present. I just want you to organize your game pitch in a couple parts. One part is your presentation, and this is going to be something that you're going to be evolving throughout the entire semester. So just like we did in game production, where you added stuff, you would, as you go, you'd make the presentation a little bit more robust and getting it ready for the final presentation, which is going to be worth the majority of your marks, okay? But these are the pieces that I'm looking for next week. So fill them in, right? So like, for example, do a title page with a team logo. Talk about your roles. I want images of each of the people or maybe even, pixel graphics or whatever. Please don't put some random image from the internet. It has to be representing you. And we've done this exercise before. You guys know what I'm looking for, okay? You can also make a group picture and annotate it. So here's the software engineer. Here's whatever you want to do. Make it your own. But I want pictures of everybody who's doing this thing. Okay. What is your influences? What kind of game are you making? And it can be very simple. Again, one slide for this. One slide for your game overview. Right. A very high level. Don't put too many. And that's this platform and bullet hell shooter as an example. Right? But you don't have to, be so specific. You can just say something like, well, I have this VR game like Star Trek Bridge Crew, and I want to make something similar here. I don't recommend it, but whatever your influences are. Again, one slide for this and not a lot of details. Now, this is the slides that I really want to focus on for next week, which are your MDA. Okay, you should know about this already. I want you to talk about your mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics for your game. So mechanics are the rules of the game. Dynamics is how the user can use the rules, like how they can strategically play the game. And aesthetics would be your gameplay experience, your visual, an auditory kind of the visual experience of the game, right? And the feel. And then also included some features that you wish to implement to get, that are separated in needs and wants. And the reason for it is you might say, I need to do this. We probably can get these done, the needs. And I would like to, here's my wants. You might have a big want list. And that might be cool from a backlog perspective, because this is an agile course. You can put a bunch of stuff on the backlog. All the needs should definitely be a high priority on the backlog, and the wants should be lower priority because you're probably not going to get all of them done. All right, so needs and wants. Then your planning slide. So how are you doing this project? What tools are you using? I want a table that kind of talks about maybe a link even to something like some kind of tool. I know that you guys are using an agile tool, right? That Elir recommended. No? Yeah. Okay, if you can get to that tool, great. If not, you can use things like Teamwork. There's Trello, lots of free tools online you can use, or free aspects of the tools you can use online. You need a tool, though, to keep track of your sprints. You need a tool to keep track of your releases, because this is an agile-based course. So I'm not going to remove that. In your planning slide, you really talk about, here's our backlog, maybe a couple slides. It's just like I said, one or more slides, because you might need a couple slides to describe, here's my backlog, this is stuff we're doing, here's who's doing what over the next little while, those kind of things. And I want you to put them inside of your PowerPoint, like one big PowerPoint that has it all. So producer, whoever that's going to be, they're the person who's going to organize this thing. It's their requirement to do it. They go through it, the PowerPoint. Please do not pick a business PowerPoint. Make it your own. All right. So don't just grab a regular template. We've talked about this before. Get your artist to theme it or whatever, and make it nice, because this is a game. You're in the game development program, guys and girls. This is not, you're not in a business program. You're not in computer science, right? So I want it to look like your game pitch. And at the end, when you do your presentation, you're going to sell your game as if it's the best game ever. We talked about this before too. All right, so that is really what's due next week. Also, if you notice that there is this, a first version of your game design document. I've put it up on Slack. It says eCentennial. That's wrong. I left that in because I'm using the same document for eCentennial. It's really up on Blackboard. That's what it is. And on Slack. And your document will be basically evolving. It's not something that you're going to be, that I expect you to be finalized next week. It's just the first version. So you don't have a game yet. So you can't, how can you put screenshots of your game? You can't. But you can sketch out your level from a top-down perspective. You can say, this is what my level is going to look like. I'm going to make a procedurally generated maze, if that's what the game you're going to make, like some of the stuff we've been talking about. Or I'm going to make a city or a little town or whatever you're going to do for your first level. I want you to sketch out stuff as much as you can. Again, you're the person who's responsible for the documentation piece. That's what it's, so it's documentation heavy next week, is your producer. He's not going to necessarily, or she may not have to do it all. Combine with your team. This is a team effort, right? So that's it. And then there's several sections down here that talk about your first playable build. What's that about? Your alpha release. What's that about? Your beta. What am I expecting for that? It's all here for you guys to take a look at. And I will be creating drop boxes for all this stuff on Blackboard, one thing at a time. As soon as they come up, I'll make another Dropbox, But I want to make the Dropbox when I know what the mark spread is going to be as well. That's why I've been waiting. So that is your project in a nutshell. One thing to also take a look at is next week, you'll also, during lab time, I'm going to get you to fill out a peer evaluation form, which kind of looks like this. And you kind of say, here's how I rank, here's my contribution, and here's the contribution of my team members. All right. So this is going to happen at the same time next week during lab time. I'm going to get you to fill it out so everyone's done. If you don't hand it in for that particular thing, you get 0. All right. So it's a mandatory thing. I'm not making it optional. It is going to be anonymous. I'm not going to share your stuff with other people, but I will say, if there's a problem, I will bring the people together to say, I got big discrepancies, kind of thing. Yeah. Per person. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to get I'm going to have lots and lots of peer reviews. So you're going to basically So once for next week, which is your game pitch, once for your first playable, once for your alpha, once for your beta, once for your final. There's 5. Okay, you'll do at least 5 of them. All right. Everyone should have, if you have 5 team members and they all have equal mark, 20% each, right? If, for example, someone did more than the others because of time constraints or whatever, then put some details, put some comments on the bottom saying, you know what, I couldn't really contribute this week or this to this thing. And if you can't contribute, guys, that's negative, right? That means that you and I have to have a conversation, because what did you do? How did you earn the marks for this one, right? So I'm hoping that everyone's going to contribute equally, but that's not always the case. And also, I might get discrepancies. If I read yours, Terry, and then I look at, if you're on the same team as Corey, and Corey says, I did 25%, and you said, well, no, but I did 25%. He only did 20%. Then we're going to have a conversation about it. I'm going to come to your team and I'm say, guys, talk to me. What's going on? That's all I'm going to do. That's all I'm going to use it for, right? But if you don't hand it in at all, that's a very negative thing, right? So please don't try and avoid it. Okay, so that's part of it. And by the way, this happens in real life. We have team retrospectives, and usually it happens around this, this frequency, something like every milestone. Obviously, the milestones are stretched out a little bit more. So you only have, let's say a milestone might be like a month, 2 to 4 weeks as an example, right? Like a regular sprint. Or it might be several sprints before you get to the milestone. And then, so there's more stuff here. The rate of reporting, sometimes we have tools that do like online kind of survey that collects the data for me as well. I don't have that right now. So I'm making use of a manual form you fill out. Okay. Questions around the project or concerns around the project. Again, I've kind of laid out the timeline for you guys. It should be fairly straightforward. All right, so I'm going to stop this recording and I'm going to go right into Blender.